is it better to win the conversation, right? Or to honor her? And now I understand it's not one or the other. When I honor her, I win.
And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding us, and the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Hi, welcome to A Better Us, and welcome to our home.
So when you got married, you formed a brand new family unit. You might say you kind of cut the apron strings with your parents.
But what happens when those apron strings are still there, whether physically or emotionally?
Marriage experts Neil and Sharol Josephson are going to help us unpack exactly what that biblical directive means to leave father and mother and cleave to each other. It's not necessarily as easy as we think.
Right. And our kitchen couples have a lot to say about it from their own kitchens via Zoom.
And they are CFL football great Mike Pinball Clemens and his wife Diane, and recording artist Dan McCauley and his wife Danielle.
As well as youth and children's pastors Eric and Kara Maines.
And it's in the second half of the show that it's going to be just the guys in what they call the Huddle with relationship expert Bill Farrell.
He's helping us guys discover ways to successfully resolve conflict with our wives.
I know, I'm going to be listening closely.
That's good. So stay with us. This whole program is going to be good.
If you got the same marriage advice from Moses, the Apostle Paul, and Jesus, would you listen to it? Probably. So we're talking about a verse in the Bible that says, "A man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." It's found in Genesis, in 2 of the Gospels, and in Ephesians. And it's repeated because it's important, but it's also difficult.
Leaving parents, starting a new home together has apparently been a challenge since Moses' day. But we know from our work with young couples today, it's still an issue that causes a lot of turbulence. Here's some things to think about when we try to navigate this. First, the command to honor our father and mother doesn't go away just because we get married. But how we show that honor has to change. You see, when we marry, we make a commitment to a new number one in our lives. We need to embrace that. And so do our parents. In an ideal situation, mom and dad will just step back graciously into a support role, and we'll step up to be each other's primary life companion, the very first place we go for emotional and physical and spiritual partnership. But you know, old habits die hard, both for us and for parents.
And there may also be unresolved issues between us and our parents, and until we put those things to rest, they'll play out in our marriages. So 2 things we have to get to if we want freedom in our marriages and freedom in our adult relationships with our parents. 2 things. First one is give thanks for how our parents have blessed us. And secondly, offer forgiveness for the ways they have hurt us. And truth be told, no parents were so good or so bad that they haven't done some of both. Now, it might be that we need some help with this. It's hard to do, so we can get some third-party help from mentors, pastors, counselors, but we absolutely know this to be true. The more we're able to do this, the more completely we will be able to give ourselves to our spouse, and the more fully we'll experience the oneness that Moses, Paul, and Jesus promised.
I have a couple things to suggest if you're finding it really hard to come to peace with your parents, and sometimes it's difficult. First of all, remember, you don't know their story. We don't know our parents' history or the hurts that they lived with, the unresolved issues maybe that their parents passed on to them. They may have gotten played out in our home, but we don't know where they came from. So thinking this way doesn't make things right, but it will give us more compassion. And secondly, lean on God for grace. Remember this instruction. It's found in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving each other just as God in Christ has forgiven you. Now, this is a really big issue, and it's sometimes a difficult one, but we want you to know this. No couple will be able to enter fully and freely and completely into their marriage relationship if they have unresolved issues or inappropriate ties to their parents.
Okay, we are joined by our kitchen couples, each in their own kitchens. Great to see you guys. We got Dan and Danielle, we've got Eric and Kara, we've got Mike and Diane. And this is kind of a touchy subject that Neil and Sharol Josephson has brought up in this teaching, navigating these relationships with parents or in-laws.
Well, you know, and this is something that we kind of struggled with. How do we handle this? Because, as you know, our son and his wife are part of our kitchen couples, Eric and Kara. But I think it's really more than physically distancing. What Neil and Sharol are talking about is priorities and emotionally distancing from your parents. Because we all go through hard times in marriage, but it's if we can turn to our spouse in those hard times and not turn to our parents in those hard times, that's where the growth happens. And you guys are really good at that.
Yeah, Sharol said it. She said, you have a new number one. I got a new number one in my life. And it's a new partnership. It's a physical partnership. It's an emotional partnership that I prioritize above my parents. You're sitting right there, and I'm just going to let you know I prioritize Kara over you. And so.
And we love that. We love that. That's, yeah.
Well, too, I love what they said, that you still honor your parents. It's just in a new way. So it's just taking your relationship with your spouse to a new level, but also with your parents. There's a new maturity there. Yeah. There's so many times in your marriage that it could be easy to run to your parents because parents have so much wisdom, but really what God wants you to be and do is rely on your spouse and honor them in the position that they have in your life.
And that's not to say that you don't ever go to your parents, because you know there's still wisdom you want to tap into. But I like the way Eric said it, the new number one. Yeah. The number one go-to is your spouse.
Yeah. You know, we can emotionally, it's good to emotionally leave or distance ourselves, but also leave and cleave. Physically leaving it does have its benefits. Now, what I mean by that is when we distance ourselves, we can see the 30,000-foot view. So when we're immersed in something, our normal, we might not realize or recognize that there might be some dysfunction, and every family has dysfunction. So when we are able to pull back, and, you know, we've had that happen before, you know, did you know you do this? Or did you know you guys are like this? We can recognize it in a better way when we take a step back, and then we can move forward to help heal and fix that dysfunction. And so there's something to be said for taking a step back, and once we're out of our normal, which we always thought was normal, we can move on to healthy.
Yeah. Everybody thinks their family of origin was normal, and then you maybe find out your spouse's idea of what normal is a little bit different. And then you step back and that's what you're saying, getting that 30,000-foot view. I never really thought about it before, but the leave and cleave, I think there's an aspect too. I think they talked about it there, the idea of leaving some of that baggage or stuff behind as well, leaving that baggage back at your family of origin's house. Like every once in a while, Judy, that's Danielle's mom, will come to our house with like a box of Danielle's old belongings from her that Judy's found in the basement.
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah, which is fine. That's fine. And it's like, oh, now I got to find a spot in my basement for these. That's great. No big deal. But sometimes there can be, like, well, we're transferring from one basement to the other. But sometimes there can be, like, our parents can bring up or can just by inadvertently even bring up old baggage. And it's like, oh, now what do I do with these old feelings? What do I do with this old emotional baggage? And so just parting ways with all that. And we've talked about before, one of the best things you can give your spouse is a healed you, a whole version of you. And just working through some of that stuff is maybe part of the leaving process too, especially once you get that 30,000-foot view.
Yeah, for sure. That's good.
The quicker you leave as well, the sooner you come back. What we have found is that we very early on, we were very much, we were a couple that became one, and our family knew that. They understood that, and so they were inviting us back rather than us trying to figuring out how to navigate. They knew that we were together. We were going to. Now proximity was a part of that. We moved from Florida to Toronto, so that made a difference. But they knew that we were one, and it made it easier for them to invite us back.
Yeah, and I love when they talked about how you don't know what your parents have gone through, right? Because sometimes it's our parents that are trying to hold on to us. And a lot of times they're doing that, and there's a reason, but we don't know that backstory, right? So we have to be sensitive to that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I think too, like forgiving them and thanking them. Now that like I'm a parent, even though Bradley's 7 months old, I feel like there's always two sides of a story too. Like I may see a situation different than he down the road will see a different situation, and from that could be two different point of views, or he may be offended by something that I didn't even know was offensive. And so just like learning the dynamics of that.
That's good.
All right, some good insights there from Neil and Sharol, and from you guys on just kind of navigating this in-law or parent relationship when you're in this new number one with each other relationship.
It's important to know.
It is, for sure.
Well,
so thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And stay with us, because coming up is going to be the guys in the huddle.
Woo!
Exciting.
When you think about it, if there's a winner and a loser in their conflict with your spouse, then you both lose because of the damage done to the relationship.
Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video. Well, we're in the huddle again with the guys of A Better Us. It's great to have you with us. I'll tell you where we are in a second. Eric Maines, Dan McCauley, Mike Pinball Clemens, and Bill Farrell. It's great having you with us, Bill.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks
Bill
for letting me in.
is a relationship expert that helps us to get a handle on things when we don't really know what's going on with our wives. We're trying to understand them. Written like some 45 books, and probably the most well-known is The Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti.
No doubt.
And
The
and
next best known is Red Hot Monogamy.
yeah, Red Hot
Guys,
Monogamy.
like
I like that title of that one for sure. So it's, we are here at the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, which is housed in Tim Hortons Field right here in Hamilton, Ontario. So it's a great stadium that a lot of things happen. Now, today is a down day for the stadium. You know, you don't see thousands of screaming fans there. But they're all out there watching us. But so the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, of course, Mike, you are enshrined here as one of the inductees.
It's one of the few games I didn't lose here.
And so it's kind of neat to. I don't know how I would feel to see a bronze head sticking up there of me, but. I'll never understand that feeling, but it's kind of probably a little funny.
Awkward indeed. Yes, yes.
It's a good likeness of you, though.
Oh, well, thank you so much, and it is a great honor. I am often try to defer, but it's a great honor. But the greater honor is to have a wonderful marriage, and that's what we're talking about today.
We all want to become a better us, and one of those things that pops up its ugly head quite often in all of our marriages is this whole idea of conflict. And it's been said conflict is inevitable, combat is optional. And so how do we kind of navigate this? It can be something that can either throw gasoline on a fire or maybe figure out ways how you can just kind of douse that and calm it down.
What you talking about, Willis?
You trying to get a fight going? So, Bill, maybe you can take a run at this ball and kick us off.
Nice.
To
Hope
say,
I don't fumble it.
How do we become a better us when it comes to conflict?
So I think, it starts, guys, with us assuming we're going to have conflict in our marriages. And it's almost guaranteed for two reasons. One is the things that are going to drive us crazy about our wives are the very things that we love about our wives, because they're the most powerful traits they have. Like, I love the fact that my wife is very creative, makes her a lot of fun to be around. We've had lots of great family memories because of her creativity, but she does everything creative. So I can't find stuff in the house. I often get frustrated with our schedule because she just creatively changes it. And so there's this creative environment that drives me crazy that I also love. And often when we're talking about important decisions, she wants a creative
answer to it when it might be a really simple analytical process. And so we get frustrated with the very things that we love about our wives. Plus, we tend to marry what we don't have. Like very, very few of us marry a mirror image of us. We marry to fill in the gaps in our life. So like in my relationship with Pam, my wife's an extrovert, I'm an introvert. So everything in her life can be solved by interaction with people. And I need downtime. But she just wants to go and go and go and go. And sometimes it's like, I can't keep up with you. Like, this is wearing me out. And my wife is also very big on having our family emotionally connected. I'm really big on our family making the right decisions. And so when it comes to financial decisions, it comes to holidays, it's easy to get in conflict because I married what I don't have. And so we should, first of all, expect it. And second, you want to have a process for approaching conflict. Because the thing I wish somebody had told me sooner in my journey is that emotions always follow decisions. And would you agree with me, when you're in conflict with your wife, it's usually emotionally based? Like very few of us sit down and go, today's a good day to have an argument, so I'm just going to schedule it in. No, it happens because emotional issues are rolling. And the way you harness emotions is through decisions. So if you've decided when we're in conflict with each other, this is how we're going to approach it. That decision helps you harness all the emotional energy that's involved in the conflict.
You decide that ahead of time before the conflict comes up.
Yeah, like when I have to be in conflict with my wife, I make an appointment to do it. So I actually said, Pam, there's something I need to talk with you about. I need to figure out when a good time to do it so we both come ready. Because we both are very assertive and we both have strong personalities. So if we do it spontaneously, sparks are going to fly.
Yeah.
But if we plan it, then we both come ready and we tend to do much better. Yeah, and we both grew up in chaos, so we actually have a 5-step process we walk through so that the chaos of our past doesn't get in the way of what we're doing. So if you're going to harness the emotional energy of a conflict, you have to have some way of approaching it. Which, of course, leads to the question, when you're in conflict with your wives, how do you approach it?
Yeah,
I've heard of scheduling date nights, but I've never heard of scheduling a fight night.
Hey, sweetie, it's 4:30, so put on your boxing gloves. So how do I deal with conflict? Yeah, so hearing that in a marriage, conflict is unavoidable. And Kara and I are 4 years in, so that would mean that the majority of our conflict is ahead of us. So, and when I look back in the past 4 years, how I've dealt with it, and especially recently, when Kara would bring up an issue, and we would start discussing it, and then she would go further in the issue, saying, "Yeah, but this part I need more clarification on." I get quiet. I get silent, and that's just my brain trying to process and think, okay, what does Kara want to hear? What do I want to say? And what's the truth? And so I'm processing that, but I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but she would kind of be waiting there, just looking at me, and then thinking like, does he actually care? And then she would say things like, are you just ignoring the problem now? Like, do you have nothing else to say about this? And they're just like, no, I'm thinking. Give me time. I need to think about this. That's one of the ways that I do it. And looking at here, like most of our conflict would be in front of us now because I plan on a very long, healthy marriage with Kara. And so this is an area that I need help in because maybe I'm by just taking the time and thinking too long is creating more conflict. And so
I do that exact same thing.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to figure out, so you do relate. I'm trying to figure out what is a better way to do that.
I'm probably guilty of playing it out like a strategy game in my head. Well, if I say this, she's gonna say that. I'm thinking carefully before I speak, which maybe is, think before you speak is a good thing, but I would probably err on the side of and because then she's waiting, same thing, and I haven't said anything, and I'm playing it out in my head, but I need to.
So let me ask you another question. We have an honest disagreement with your wife. I mean, it's an honest disagreement. It's a real issue. You're not just frustrated with each other, but there's actually something you need to bring up, and there's an honest disagreement. How do you bring that up without ruining her sense of security with you?
I guess as we were referring to the last question, I am competitive. I want to win. So I,
You know it's biblical.
I had to
Run in such a way as you may
run
win.
the race as to win. That's right. That's right. So early on in our relationship, we did date for 8 years. So we had a long period because we were 19 and 18 and kind of in different places, going to school and all of that. So I really had a challenge with that early, and somewhere along the way, we kind of came up with different things to sort of help out and help the communication. My thought process is now, right, and sort of always kind of have little things that kind of make sense to you at certain periods in life, is I adore you. Right? And so when we start the conversation, or we're in the conversation, we kind of get in this conversation, I try to always think in my head, I adore you. And as I say that in my head, it settles the competitive spirit a little bit. And I understand that I win, right? So in the whole idea, so I guess at one point I was thinking, is it better to win the conversation, right? Or to honor her? And now I understand it's not one or the other. When I honor her, I win. Right, and so that's what
You're setting a priority.
That's good. Yeah.
You're the priority isn't the fight, or in a past taping, I remember you saying, "Am I going to say I love her or I love conflict? Do I want to win, or do I want her more in the end?" So you're setting a priority by doing that in your heart.
By the way, sometimes I still lose. Right? So sometimes I still don't get that part right. Say it in my head, but I think we can kind of develop processes. You went through and talked about process. We can learn. There are processes we can learn. We can come up with our own processes. But I think process helps.
When you think about it, if there's a winner and a loser in their conflict with your spouse, then you both lose, because of the damage done to the relationship. So we got to be looking for the win-win. And I think one way to do it is you think of the problem that you're discussing, rather than being between you, and you're kind of firing back and forth at each other and hurting each other in the crossfire. But you really it's the issue that you're trying to deal with. You put the issue over here, like on the other side of the table, and you and your wife are on the same side. You're saying we're working toward that solution. And then you also you don't start with the accusatory tone, like the you statements. You always did. You're such a you. But if it's the kind of the I statements, like I feel. First of all, you got to tone it down a few notches. In fact, Ann and I have a signal where if we're getting into something and there's emotions are there and it's kind of heated, I might go to her. Okay, let's just tone it down. And she's given me permission to do that. That's okay. It's just kind of.
She's never been like.
She's given me permission to do that.
Yeah.
Like I hope you all heard that. Because if your wife gives you permission to do stuff like this, it works beautifully.
I've seen them try this one before.
Yeah.
No, that one doesn't work. They probably didn't get permission for that one.
They didn't know that was a snap the turtle.
Yeah, I was just the turtle.
But the thing is that we have to give a safe place in our marriages for the people to bring up if there's an issue, a concern that needs to be shared. But I guess it's in how you do it, the attitude and the tone of voice. And you guys did a teaching that we had in a previous program talking about body language and tone of voice. In a conflict, that's pretty huge, and how that's going to be resolved. It's just going to be all on that emotional level, or do we kind of? And it might take that scheduling, like you say. So you say, okay, can I talk about this? Because your emotions are there, and you go. Maybe you send up a prayer. You just think about how can we then start this so it is on the other side of the table, and this is still safe.
Related to what you're saying, like I've gotten in the habit when I need to bring something up with Pam that's a real issue, I will compliment her first, bring up the issue, compliment her again.
Yeah.
And guys tell me all the time, isn't that just kind of pandering to her? And I say, no, it's making sure that she's feeling secure while we deal with a real issue.
Good. It's good. Well, this has been a great huddle, guys. And I think we've learned some strategies in our huddle to move the ball down the field a little bit and becoming a better us. And so hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned. More Better Us coming up. And to break the huddle, we got to do the ready? Break! See ya.
Hey, you know, conflict is inevitable, right? It doesn't matter how loving you are. In fact, my favorite verse in all of Scripture on conflict, Romans 12, verse 18 says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, try to live at peace with everyone. Have you ever seen a verse that has more qualifiers in it than that single verse? Even Scripture's acknowledging we're going to have conflict.
Yeah, conflict is real life, but what we need to understand is how can we navigate conflict in a way that doesn't damage our relationship?
And one of the most important ingredients is a cooperative spirit. When we look at what goes into a good fight, because there's a big difference between a good fight and a bad fight, right?
Yes.
A good fight brings us closer together. In fact, we often say conflict is the price we pay for deeper intimacy.
Right.
So a good fight versus a bad fight, you have to have a cooperative spirit, which means we're on the same team here.
Yeah, because if you try to win in a fight with your spouse, your marriage is what loses, not your spouse.
Right.
So you want to be cooperative. In fact, one of the best metaphors I've ever had for us, and we'll call it up whenever we're in a fight, after watching loads of soccer games on that field, I'll try to picture the two of us on the same team out on that field. We have a problem. It's like we're kicking that soccer ball back and forth between us, trying to
The soccer ball is the problem, right? Not
exactly.
you or not me.
No,
but the
and
problem.
we're not on opposing teams.
Yeah.
We're trying to score together by finding resolution, and we're making a goal.
Right, and that's what keeps us on the same team. A
Right.
cooperative spirit, essential to fighting a good fight.
Well, it's been a great show. It's always fun when just the guys get together and talk about some hot topics in our marriages, like today's on dealing with conflict, and our wives get to listen in too.
Oh yes, we were listening. And it's no coincidence that earlier in the show, we covered another topic that can often be a source of conflict in marriage, our parents and in-laws.
Right. Properly handling these kinds of issues has a lot to do with our priorities. You know, when we made our vows at the altar, we committed to protecting our number one relationship on this earth, and that's with our spouse.
As we consistently put our spouse first before everything and everyone, we grow closer emotionally and physically, and those inevitable conflicts are less likely to tear down our relationship.
But there's another relationship that makes a huge difference. It brings a strength and stability to our marriage, to our life, really.
Yeah, really.
And this relationship should actually be our highest priority.
And that is a relationship with God. Jesus came to pave the way for that relationship, and it's through placing our faith and trust in Him that we're not only forgiven for our past, but we're given hope for our future, including an endless source of wisdom and grace that we need to cultivate a beautiful marriage.
The phone number on your screen is our prayer line, and we'd love to talk with you further about this and pray with you for whatever it might be that you're dealing with in your marriage.
That number is available 24 hours a day. Thanks again for stopping by, and remember, with God, there is always hope to become a better us.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
You can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
Enjoy! Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.